Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Join Terry with Tracer Rounds every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern to hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio. If you miss a show, you can listen again on Reefs Across America Radio every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to see if you are on target. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, something was going on with the mic. I think it's the weather, and so I apologize for getting a late start, but you're on Military Broadcast Radio, and this is the Tracer Rounds show, and you're with Ace from the Bulletproof Podcast. Welcome, Ace.
Thank you so much, Terry, and it's so good to see you again. Last time I saw you, you came on our Army Roundtable, and I'm very good friends with Military Broadcast Radio. You guys are so wonderful over there. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to have you because I don't even know where to start with your background and your career and everything that you're doing now and everything you've done before. So why don't you kind of give us an idea of who Ace was as a kid and how you got to this point, if you don't mind?
Sure. Ace, as a kid, had the most wonderful bowl haircut you've ever seen. And I grew up barefoot, running around the muddy fields of St. Louis, Missouri. So I was born in a hillbilly town and raised on that country sunshine, and loved playing with my turtles and hanging out with my grandma and going through her closet of amazing vintage clothing, and just a very country upbringing. And I loved the simplicity of it and the warmth of a good buttermilk biscuit or a peach cobbler that my grandma would make. Then we were uprooted from my country lifestyle when I was younger. My mom had gotten remarried, so we moved to New York when I was younger. And I cried because I thought that all of New York was like the Crips versus the Bloods. I thought it was just complete gangland. So I cried probably the whole trip cross country too, because I just loved the country. I love wildlife, wildflowers, and it just really suited me. I like being outside, and never really considered myself to be a New Yorker. But my mom's marriage, that didn't last too long. And she wound up having a really horrific opioid addiction. And if any of your listeners remember the opioid crisis, my mom was the quintessential opioid addict in terms of she had never been addicted to drugs. She never drank. She never had any sort of addictive issues whatsoever. But what happened was she was working in a lab at the time, and she slipped and she really messed up her knees real bad. So she wound up needing double knee replacements. And unfortunately, at the time, during the opioid crisis, these doctors just kept prescribing her just a toxic cocktail of opioids that eventually killed her at the age of 39. So my mother, she had 4 children. And so watching her go through this horrible stage after stage after stage of addiction before she finally died at 39, it built a lot of survival skills, and it built a lot of resilience in me. And it also built the need to want to protect other people. During that time, I found myself to be in a lot of vulnerable situations. I was bouncing back and forth between New York and Missouri, where my grandma lived. She basically kind of raised me because my mom was going through such serious addiction. But I found myself to be in a very vulnerable situation. There was kind of nobody around adulting, so I was always kind of the adult. So I found myself in a kidnapping situation when I was 8 years old. I've told this story before, but I think it's really important for parents to hear. So when I was 8 years old, I was helping my grandma through the church at a soup kitchen. And there was a gentleman there that had been served by myself and my sister and my grandma and the church staff. And at the end, everyone was very busy and very distracted after we had fed everyone. Everyone had their role and everyone had their job. I was about 8 years old. This was the first time I was ever doing this. And while everyone else was busy doing their jobs, collecting the trays, cleaning off the tables, doing the dishes, removing the food, covering it. Me being the youngest, I was just sort of not assigned a job. So one of the homeless men that was there, he came up to me, I guess noticing that all of the adults were busy, and he said, "Thank you so much for doing this." And I said, "Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to do it." I was just a, little kid. Yeah. And then he pretended like he didn't hear me. He pretended he was deaf. And he said, "I can't," he kept pointing to his ears. I can't understand what you're saying. I can't hear you." And I kept repeating myself. And as I was doing that, he kept sort of signaling like, well, let's go out into the hallway where you can say it again and maybe I'll be able to hear you. And I was very vulnerable. I was very young and naive. And he kept luring me further and further away from the kitchen where my grandmother was. Eventually, he got me away from the kitchen, out of the dining room, past, there was a large hallway outside of the dining room, lured me outside of the hallway, and eventually pulled me almost outside of the front doors when the owner of the facility ran out. And luckily she did, because I had literally practically 1 foot in and 1 foot outside of the building. And outside was the streets of downtown St. Louis, which isn't where I was from, but that's where we were doing sort of like the mission that day. So that was a very close call. And
that's scary for a little 8-year-old to be, kind of persuaded by some guy you didn't know, you're just trying to be nice, and then he's trying to take you outside the building, and that's not right.
Yeah. And, looking back on it, especially now with my experience and things like that, looking back on it, I was the perfect target, because I had no situational awareness at the time. I wasn't paying attention at all. I was smiling and I just saw the good in everyone, like most children do. I didn't see the hazards because I wasn't really taught that way. I wasn't raised that way. And it happened again, strangely, when I was 21, 22. I think I just turned 22. I was waitressing in a brewery, putting myself through college. Again, I didn't have a father figure. My mom had died a couple of years earlier. So I was sort of just out there working 3 jobs, going to school, doing all this on my own, and ran into a Target to get an iced coffee before my double waitressing shift at the time to pay for my school. And my favorite color is yellow. So that comes into the story. I love yellow. And I used to love the old Volvo cars. I used to like them because they were safe, right? So went into Target, got my iced coffee. And as I was coming out, now on Long Island, New York, which is where I was living, it's very busy. All these Target parking lots have hundreds and hundreds of cars in them. So it was a very busy Sunday. The parking lot was completely packed with moms and shopping carts and kids and people and cars, and just a hustle, right? If you can picture that. So as I was coming out of Target, I saw my car, and I saw that parked next to my car was a yellow Volvo, like Volvo station wagon or something like that. It was an older car. And automatically I noticed the car, but I noticed that the older gentleman, well, not a gentleman, that was sitting in the driver's seat, saw me, looked right at me when I came out. And he was about, I would say, 12 spots away from the front door. So as I walked out, I got my keys out. Now I have a little bit more sense about me. I'm 22, but I have a little bit more sense about me. And as I'm walking to my car, I have my keys in my hand, and I'm still watching him watch me. Now, knowing what I know today, I would not have gone to my car. But I was thinking at the time, being a naive 22-year-old, well, it's Sunday, the sun is shining, there's a million people in the parking lot, it's crowded. You make a bunch of excuses. So as I was coming around to my driver's side, the man jumped out of the car and tried to drag me into the passenger seat.
Oh, no.
Luckily, I had my keys in my hand, so I was able to rip my arm away from him, dive into my driver's seat, lock the door, and I had, when you have a pull through where there's a parking space in front of you and you can just sort of gun it? That's what I did. I started my car and I just took off. Now, the craziest part about the story is when I arrived at my job at the brewery, I was, I didn't have a cell phone at the time. So when I arrived there, I told my bosses right away what had happened, and they didn't believe me. because they were having what's called like a shift meal when you're like waitressing, where they sit all the waiters and waitresses down and they tell you what the specials are and what's going on for the evening, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to tell them, like, no, you don't understand. Like, I was almost just kidnapped, like at Target, which wasn't too far away. I said, somebody tried to pull me into their car. Yeah, okay. Like, you know, we need to get started. I'm like, no. Like, I really need to call. And they're like, come on, you're working a double. Like, we got to go. And so I was never able, you know, there was just chaos. And then I worked a double shift, which is about 12 hours. And then that was that. So all of that sort of cultivated strangely, all of those things inside of me sort of sculpted me into, you know, a person that kind of always has to be in survival mode, but also these sort of types of adversity, you can't let them control your mindset or your environment. And yeah, what was interesting was that also, you know, when my mom was addicted and suffering from this opioid addiction right before she died, the strangest part was that I was homecoming queen in school, in high school. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, I was homecoming queen, but the strangest part about that was I went to school and I was that person, but then, you know, there was no breakfast, there was no lunch, there was no dinner. My mom was passed out or crashing her car or breaking her arm or getting arrested. And so it's kind of like I was leading two lives, you know, also.
Right.
So, but I say this not as like a sad, oh, look what I went through. The point is that no matter your circumstances, anything is possible and you can always rise above any sort of adversity.
You never know what you can truly endure until you've had to go through it. And it sounds like you had quite the upbringing with mom having the problem with opioids and going to a whole new state where you didn't know anything and then being abducted almost twice. I mean, that has to definitely show you what you're made of.
You know, I've had some really hardworking angels looking after me. There were some near fatal car accidents, you know, in there as well. There was this one crazy time when I was driving to the beach in college as well. And I was driving down this very popular road by my college. And a man was drag racing in a Pontiac against a Ferrari, a yellow Ferrari, actually.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the Ferrari won. But the Pontiac that was driving on the opposite side of the road, it hit a guardrail, flew up in the air, Dukes of Hazzard style, and hit my vehicle head on. And yeah, it was crazy. And luckily, I seriously was saved by angels, by the grace of God that day, because he died on impact, but my car spun out 8 times, caused a huge 10-car pileup behind me, and then almost flipped down over into what was like a deep kind of cliffy ravine. So my car went on 2 wheels, and I said, please, God, no. And because it was about to flip over into the cliff. Yeah, just imminent death, right? And it came back down immediately. I didn't have a scrape on me. They loaded me onto a stretcher. They gave me MRIs. They checked everything, and my car was completely squashed like a bug. But luckily, in my life, the angels have worked overtime. So all glory to God. I'm very thankful for that.
Wow, you must have had some angels to have had all that happen and still walk away unscathed and not really, you know, other than shaken up, healthy. So that's awesome.
And there was a roommate, because I was in college at the time, that was also going to the beach that saw the whole accident. And so they were freaking out, thinking that, you know, once the ambulance arrived, excuse me, that that they were going to pull some sort of mangled body out of the vehicle. But I walked out, and thankfully they took me to the hospital, but I was fine. So I'm very thankful for that.
Definitely. So what did you study in college, and how did it prepare you for what you're doing now, or did it?
Well, very interesting. I sort of had two professions my whole life. When I went to school, I studied Shakespeare. I studied English. I went on to teach at private schools for 26 years. I taught public speaking. I taught Shakespeare. I taught tons of stuff. I taught many grades, high school, middle school, elementary school. I taught at local theaters, public speaking, Shakespeare, things like that.
Mhm.
But while I was doing that, I started really getting into doing something more serious, because it all felt too frivolous to me to just be teaching this and teaching that. And I didn't feel like it had any meaning. So I started pursuing other paths of education as well through the Department of Homeland Security, and sort of building all that up underneath my belt. And I still teach today, but I also run a safety and security team of veterans to keep the school safe and do active shooter. And so I kind of have my hands in both worlds, teaching because I do love children, and also making sure I stay up on, all my certifications with DHS and search and rescue and volunteering and mental health, holistic certifications and all that. And so that sort of led into a career working to find missing children, being a missing persons incident commander with a nonprofit.
How long did you do that? And are
did
you
that-
still involved with that?
Well, I started off being a volunteer with Operation Underground Railroad. Are you familiar with them?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they did that movie Sound of Freedom. So that was sort of the door opening. By then, I had many certifications in the field, but I started volunteering with them. And then once I had a lot of experience underneath my belt and the certifications to back it up, then I started working with this nonprofit. I had applied for it, and I got in as the incident commander. And it was a wonderful experience. And also, it is a very devastating, it's a very devastating field to work in. It's a necessary field, but it's a very devastating field, because a lot of times the outcome is tragic.
Right.
And a lot of times it's children or the most vulnerable people in your population. So there was a lot of very young autistic children that went missing, because many of the children have elopement, which is they just feel an inner desire to run off, and they are extremely attracted to water. So unfortunately, a lot of the missing children that go missing immediately, especially young children with autism, unfortunately are found in really horrific ways in local bodies of water, which is awful.
Yes.
But luckily, there's a lot of new programs and new technologies for parents of children with autism, where they can wear certain alert bracelets, certain tracking devices that can alert them of different types or moments of elopement with their children. Also, there were a lot of cases of silver alerts, purple alerts, a lot of cases where senior citizens with dementia or Alzheimer's would go off on a regular trip to the grocery store and unfortunately have a serious memory lapse and not realize where they're going. And a lot of them sometimes can find themselves in very dangerous situations because they can't remember where they are or how to get back home. And so a lot of those can be very tricky, because they can find themselves in survival situations where they have nothing to eat and nothing to drink, and they're in the middle of the wilderness and they don't know who they are, what happened, etc. So those are always very, very difficult as well.
Yeah.
Many of the cases as well were foster youth, because the foster system is just in need of a complete renovation, because so many of these children, especially when they get to the teen years, fall through the cracks. And they struggle with depression, with feelings of loneliness, lack of acceptance. They have a fear that their future isn't going anywhere. And a lot of it just comes down to love. But a lot of them take off, or they get trapped in the human trafficking circuits. And those are always very difficult as well.
Yeah, the foster system is definitely something that needs an overhaul, as you say, and because sometimes the kids are placed in a home that they never should have been in, and so their only option is to leave, and then where they end up or however they end up is sometimes not a very pleasant outcome. Because like you said, they do get trafficked and things like that. They believe in people that they think have their best interests at heart, and then realize after the fact that they don't.
Right. And those types of vulnerabilities, predators can just smell them.
Yeah.
And, a lot of special operators will tell you, you can see where the predators are, and you can tell who prey is. You can tell by their posture, you can tell by their attitude, you can tell when they talk, you can smell vulnerability if you're a predator. So unfortunately, a lot of those children fall victim to it. 2 of the cases were very strange, and they were your average housewife with children. One of them was a new grandmother, and this particular woman also had just done her daughter's bridal shower, and the very next day just completely went rogue, went completely off the map, completely disappeared. And there were so many questions, even by law enforcement, about what happened to her, because her whole house was destroyed as if someone had broken in. And unfortunately, it eventually ended in a suicide. But two of these cases were identical in terms of these women just had a complete mental breakdown out of nowhere, and just took off and eventually just snapped. But their families, they didn't see any sign of it. So those were really difficult, because I worked closely with both of their families after it. But those are in some ways more difficult, because nobody saw anything coming. There weren't any warning signs.
Yeah, I can imagine that being my family member, mom, sister, aunt, whoever, that all of a sudden one day they're just gone. They've done normal things, for the long term, as far as you can remember, and then all of a sudden one day they just do something completely out of the norm, and you're like, what happened? Like, there was no warning, no signs, no symptoms of something. So yeah, I can't imagine being a family member that's trying to figure out what in the world just happened to to our family and why they did that.
Right. And sometimes it's just the strangest trigger. In that one particular case, we all came to the assumption that it was something about the bridal shower. I know that the mother had been divorced recently, and so she was at her daughter's bridal shower, and then all of the emotions that go with that probably sort of just, made her snap. It was just too overwhelming, dealing with the dichotomy of a wedding and a divorce probably at the same time.
Oh, wow.
In your family, yeah.
That's very sad.
Yeah, definitely.
So you were doing that, and then you were teaching. And so how did you get into podcasting, and how did you get into connecting with all the special operators that you've connected with through your podcast?
Yeah, that's a funny thing. So I was doing the incident commander thing, and I did that for a couple of years, but it really starts to weigh on you after a while, because the cases keep coming, and they come very quickly, 2, 3, 4 at a time, plus the ones that you're still working on that are unsolved. So some of them, I started dreaming about a lot of the children, especially that were going missing. So I was having dreams of, trying to almost solve the cases at night when I was sleeping. And so eventually I stopped doing that. And almost immediately I decided, I do want to be able to help children. I do want to be able to give back and make an impact. And I love veterans so much. There's a very special veteran that came into my life. He was a Vietnam veteran up in New York, and he was an older gentleman. He was probably 79, turning 80 when I met him, but he had a heart of gold. He was salty and had been exposed to Agent Orange, and unfortunately had lost his family while he was away at war. And he just had a heart of gold. I chased him down one day with cookies on Veterans Day. And we just sort of, became buds. And he would drop things on my porch and I'd drop things off on his porch. And he just had a heart of gold. And anytime I tried to do something to help him, he would pay me back tenfold. And right above my head right now in my studio, I have his machetes actually from the Vietnam War and a whole bunch of really cool knives and things that he gave me. So it was because of Robert really that I started Bulletproof, because I want to live a full life. I want to give back to the world. I want to do things selflessly. And Robert was the perfect example of that. So I started Bulletproof because I wanted to connect with people that are doing good because it's good, that do the right thing because it's the right thing. And so when I started connecting with the veteran and first responder and Homeland Security, really, community, I just kind of found my tribe and I found my people, because I think it's the best example of what a great American can be. So since I started the show, I've just basically completely devoted my life to trying to give back to this cause. And through Bulletproof, I've been able to just meet so many incredible people and hear so many incredible stories and really get a chance to honor some of these amazing heroes that sacrificed their lives and the survivors that survived incidents like Operation Red Wings or the Black Hawk Down incident or Extortion 17 or Benghazi, and getting that sort of historical perspective from the people that were there and the people that had to inform families after these tragic, horrible losses and pick up the pieces for the rest of the country during those tragic events really was very life-changing and impactful for me. And I think I've met some of the best people, yourself included, that America really has to offer.
Well, I appreciate the work you're doing, because I think too that it's so important to capture all these stories and preserve them for the next generation so that they'll know what we've done or what those in those positions have done to further, the American freedoms and to really make a difference around the world. So I really think it's very important what you're doing. And I think just having you do that with all the people you connect with is so very important.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. But I consider myself to be the lucky one, because I've made really dear friends and connected with just such wonderful people that really, you know how they say that you align with people that are on the same vibrational frequency as you? Did you ever hear that?
Yes, one of our hosts on one of our platforms, she talks about that a lot. And so, yes, I understand.
I really believe that, because I think that we are just giant energy conductors, and you're going to attract that's whatever vibration it is that you're putting out. So I really feel like I've connected on a very deep level with so many of the wonderful people that have come on the show. And yeah, it's definitely been an exciting journey, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes from here.
And so you have won the 2025 Marathon Award. So what was that about? What kind of marathon show did you run to win that award? I'm really curious.
Yeah, the name is kind of tricky, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's called the 2025 Marathon Show Award, but it's based on statistics, and it says that that people tuned in 80% longer, meaning when they tune into the show, they listen 80% longer than they did to other shows. So they gave me an award for it. And I was like,
That's
cool.
awesome.
I'll
Well,
take it.
congratulations for that. And I think you're doing good work. So no wonder they're listening, because they should. So what all platforms are you on? I know you're Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, Reese Across America. What else are you showing up on?
Let's see, Roku TV, and then the Amazon TV on there. Basically, wherever you find your podcasts, except for iTunes, because I don't get down with Bill Gates. So I did upload my platform to there. But yeah, other than that, you can find it on Spreaker and Podbean and all those other ones too.
Oh, very good. And so now you're an author, or have you been an author before? Because I know you have a new book out and it's on Amazon, and it's right here.
That's very interesting. So I have to go back. I have to rewind a little bit to answer that question. I left something out about my childhood, which keeps coming up in my algorithm because, once you're onto something, your algorithm just keeps feeding it to you, right? So when I was a child, I was really into creative writing, and they put me into the GATE program. Have you heard about that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Now that we're talking about it, it's going to be in your algorithm. So buckle up, Carrie.
All right.
So it's actually gone viral lately, the GATE program, because, well, I'll touch on this very, very briefly. The GATE program was a gifted and talented program for children, but it was a CIA program. I didn't know that as a child, but now I know that because it's publicly out there and all the documents. So it was a CIA program in the public schools, the gifted and talented program, where children with certain talents or whatever the case may be, they were pulled out of their class and put in a gifted room or bused to a different district where they had part of their day in this gifted program. So I was pulled out as a child and bused to a different district. Mostly for my creative writing. But there were many children there that were different things. There were some kids building rockets and all sorts of wild stuff. It was kind of like X-Men. But if you look more into it, you'll be like, whoa, this is insane. And it really, now that I'm learning more about it, it really is crazy. So yes, I was in the CIA GATE program as a child for creative writing. So since then, since being a child, I've always loved to write. I have many saved documents of things that I've written. I've written plays, I've written poetry, I've written a whole bunch of things that I've never published. But when Robert, that veteran that I was telling you about, when he passed away last year, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I really wanted to do something that wasn't about his life, but something where I could take just a piece of his legacy. I mean, I did do a memorial episode for him with the Screaming Eagles Foundation, but I wanted to take part of his name, which was Robert, and I wanted to write the most American book you could ever write. And so that's what I sought out to do. The book is called The Life and Times of Milton Roberts by A. Raymond. That's my name. And it is an epic historical fiction, and it takes place over a century of unbreakable American spirit. And it takes you through 100 years of his life, of Milton Roberts' life, through World War II and the Korean War and the Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement. It takes you through the assassinations of President Kennedy and of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and then it takes you post 9/11. So the foreword was written by Don Mann, and he's a dear friend, and also a retired SEAL Team 1, 2, and 6 operator. And he's a New York Times bestselling author. So I was so blessed to have him write the foreword. That meant so much to me and still does.
Right.
And then I stumbled across an amazing professional voice actor to record the audiobook. And his voice actor name is Gary Lamb, but he has a different last name that he goes by. But Gary was a fighter pilot in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. And he was a child in Dallas, Texas, when Kennedy was shot, and has a lot of connections personally to the book. And so it was really meaningful to have him be able to record the audiobook. So The Life and Times of Milton Roberts, it's available on Amazon and Kindle paperback and hardcover. It's on Audible. It's on Amazon, iTunes. I didn't put it on iTunes, just so you know. Audible does that. But I am working on a second book in the series. It's going to be another The Life and Times of book. And so this will be part of a larger series.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to read it. I know I've gotten started on this one, and it's a good read so far. According to Ace, I haven't gotten into the heavy part of the book yet, but I think I'm working my way there. So I'm excited to read that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for starting the book and for checking it out. I think those that make it through towards the end, they'll really have a firm understanding on not only why I wrote the book, but who I wrote the book for. By the time you get to the end, you'll understand who the book exactly is for.
Well, I can't wait to find out then. So you have a new TV series coming out too. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. I actually realized that was still in my bio, but American Stories TV likes to work with Don Mann, who wrote the foreword to my book. We're now good friends. But about a year ago, he had selected me to be a mission commander on a show that he was going to be creating called The Mission. So The Mission, they finished shooting the pilot episode, I believe. And like the whole TV and showbiz businesses going these days, I don't know when they're going to be shooting the second episode because it's several different teams, but I'll keep you posted when I hear more about that. But I am selected with my team to be a part of that if they decide to move forward after the pilot.
Well, that's really neat. So, but you don't have any idea when the pilot's coming out?
I know they already shot the pilot down in Belize, with one of the teams, but I don't know any other information. I know these things often take a while, so I'm cool with it either way.
That's exciting. So Joel was in the comments and he said that you should show your pretty face. And he said, I don't know why you don't.
You know, it's funny because people tell me all the time, like, why don't you do video? Just do a video podcast. Are you real? Are you AI? Do you look like that or do you not look like that? I can guarantee you there's no filter. That's my face. I'm not a weird AI robot. Nothing's weird. I don't have anything to hide. I just love the sound of radio, and I love the old school fireside chats. And there's so many video podcasts out there that do such a great job. But I feel like the audio version of everything is sort of my wheelhouse. So for now, I'm going to stick with that. But I guarantee you I'm a real person.
Yeah, I mean, it does. So when you're listening in the car, you're not seeing a video or anything like that. So it really just draws you in because you don't visually see anything, because sometimes the visual aspect then detracts from the story because you're focusing on what's in front of you. But if you're just listening, you're listening with a whole other ear and you're really paying attention to what's being said. So I understand the fireside chat idea. It makes perfect sense. I mean, that's what they did with FDR and all that, his fireside chats, and people sat by the radio and just listened, and then the images his talks conjured up were whatever the beholder, the person that was listening, or was to think about it. So I think you do leave something to the imagination and let people kind of conjure up their own ideas of what you're talking about.
Also, I think for women, it becomes very tricky because a man can shoot a podcast in a hoodie with a baseball hat on, just hanging out, chilling. And I wouldn't want to shoot a podcast and have people say, oh, she looks prettier with her hair up, or she looks prettier with her hair down, or she wore that sweater on season 7, episode 4, or why isn't she, you know what I mean? I think
Right.
I want people to focus on, and you're doing a wonderful job, so I'm not knocking video podcasts at all, but just for me personally, I wouldn't want people to be focused on what I was wearing, whether I look pretty or not pretty, whether I'm busted or not busted, whether I'm tan or not tan, whatever the case may be. I wouldn't want people to focus on that. So if I can get them to listen to me for a little while, I'll take it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because, you know, you do get distracted when you see video. You're not always listening to the message. So,
Right. Yeah, it can get kind of tricky. I think the world can kind of be harder on women, especially in the podcast world.
yeah, or we're harder on ourselves. I don't know which it is, but yes, I understand that. So, what's next for you? You've got the podcast. You are waiting to see if that TV episode is going to air, and you've got a book in the works. What else? You've got certificates in emergency management and in different law enforcement type accreditations. What's next for ACE?
Yeah, so I have a lot coming up. So right now I have 71 certifications, and I like to consistently keep doing them. And just finishing writing the book, I feel like I'm falling behind. So next I'm going to be doing more certifications, but I'm also going to be continuing to work on the second book, which is already all laid out. I've already started writing a lot of it. So I'm hoping that book will be done sometime before the end of the summer. So that should be good. And then with that comes the audiobook and all of that. I started also playing around with the idea of converting The Life and Times of Milton Roberts into a screenplay, either for a film or possibly for a series. And I've kind of been throwing that idea around, but right now I'm working on the second book. And I applied about a week and a half ago to break a Guinness World Record. So I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Can you give us a hint what it is, or are you going to save that for your show and kind of roll it out there?
It's funny because even my closest friends, I haven't said a word about what it is. And everyone is looking at me like I'm absolutely crazy. They're like, you know, you're not that fast of a runner. You know, you can't lift that much. So, you know, what is it that you have up your sleeve right now? And I can't really give it away yet. But when I hear back from them and find out if they accepted the record that I want to break, if they accept it, I'll be the first one to shout it from the rooftop. But for now, I'm going to keep it a big question mark for everybody because I want people to think the craziest things. Like, is she going to be juggling fish bowls or, you know?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, I was part of a Guinness Book of World Record event. So it wasn't me putting it on, but it was the world's largest sandwich. And it was the world's largest ice cream cone. And it was in Boise State football stadium. So they invited everyone to come have a sandwich and have some of the ice cream, but it was a Guinness Book of World Record event at one time. I'm sure there's bigger sandwiches now or bigger ice cream cones, but that was my claim to fame with the Guinness Book of World Records.
You have no idea how much I'm loving hearing this right now. What kind of sandwich was it?
It was so actually I'm from Idaho, and the big sub restaurant there is Blimpie's. So it was a Blimpie's sub. And so it was just made of different meats and cheeses. And then it was a strawberry ice cream, if I'm not mistaken, it was strawberry. And so what they did was they had this big platform and they put all these gallons of ice cream in it. And then they gave each person a cone off of it, but I don't remember how many gallons of ice cream it was, but it was a lot. It was huge. And they had to take ladders to stand up to get the ice cream because it was so tall. And then the sandwich, they actually put it through a little bit of an oven. So it was like a pass-through oven. So the sandwich just kept going through this oven until it got to the tables where they started cutting up the sandwich.
Oh my gosh. And how big was the sandwich?
It was the length of a football field.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have so many questions about this. So the bread on the sandwich, was it one large sheet of bread or several pieces of bread, or how did that work?
No, it was one long piece. It was continuous. They baked this long piece of bread and then made the sandwich. Yeah, it was a football field long.
Terry, this is fascinating.
Well, I had to look it up just to remind myself that it actually happened because I'm like, yeah, I know I was there because it was when I was a teenager and it was in the Bronco Stadium. And if you've ever been to Idaho and you've been to Bronco Stadium, it has blue AstroTurf. It's the only college football stadium with blue AstroTurf. So the joke is, why did all the geese die over Boise, Idaho, where the stadium is?
Oh no, why?
They were trying to land in the water and didn't realize that the grass wasn't water, it was AstroTurf. So that's how the geese died. And that's the joke, is that, they were confused.
Let me tell you, Terry, if you want to be completely entertained, go on the Guinness Book of World Records website and start scrolling through some of these records. Some of them are crazy. Some of them I was looking at the other day, there was a guy. Okay, let me just ask you, how long do you think the longest plank is? You know, planking?
15 minutes.
9 hours and
No way.
Yes, I swear, 9 hours and 40 something minutes. Imagine holding a plank for that long.
No, thank you. I'm good to hold it maybe 5 or 10. That's about the max. I don't think I can hold it any longer than that.
And how old do you think the oldest person in the world in the Guinness Book of World Records is?
125?
Ooh, you're close. It says that she was 122 years old, but she smoked until she was 118. She ate chocolate every single day. She was a French woman and just completely living the dream, just eating chocolate, eating junk food. Really, really crazy. But she said that her secret was maintaining a calm, peaceful attitude throughout her life.
There's something to be said for that. Stress will definitely shorten your life. So the stress that you can reduce in your life, all the better.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a complete health nut. So I walk 6.5 miles to 7 miles a day. I'm taking supplements. I'm obsessed with eating health food and all that stuff. But I just started this chamomile tea at night regimen, and it's super calming. I don't know if you've ever done it. It's very, very calming. I highly recommend.
Yeah, I've done that a little, and then I kind of quit for a while, but I agree with you. Chamomile tea definitely does help. And so anything to reduce the essential oils that you put in your room, the lavender, so stuff like that, all that helps. Or those nasal, they're not sprays, but you breathe them in. Those help to calm you too. There's a company here in Texas that does the holistic type, all natural products. The name of the company is actually called No Crap in It. That is the actual name of the company because there's no crap in it. No preservatives, no additives, no colors, no nothing. It's completely, the product itself without anything added to it. So you're getting the true benefit of whatever you're ordering, whatever oil or mineral that you're ordering. It's just that product and nothing else.
And listen, No Crap in It company, Miss Terry over here just completely promoted you, so you should become an affiliate.
Right? Yeah, they have a lot of really great products. So if you're looking for something that doesn't have a lot of stuff in it that you don't want, all the additives and dyes and fragrances and all that, then it's really a great alternative.
Yeah, that's terrific. I'm all about magnesium and the omegas and coconut oil this, and I'm all about it. So I'll definitely check them out.
Yeah, definitely do. They have magnesium sprays that are supposed to help you like relax and sleep. And, magnesium is one of the minerals that a lot of us lack. And so getting that dose, and they have like I think there's 3 different types of magnesium in one of those sprays. So you're getting the benefit of all of them and not just one type or the other. And so you're really benefiting from the oils of all 3 combining to give you the best rest or the best solution, because most products only have one, and this one has like 3 different ones. So it's really great.
I like when they combine the glycinate and oxide and all the different magnesiums. So what's your promo code, Terry? Because you just completely sold it to me.
Oh, I wish I had one, but well, we've got about 5 minutes left. So what have I not asked you that I should have asked you? What would you like to tell our audience?
That's a really good question. I just think that I have this little catchphrase that I've used probably my whole life, and I always say constant upgrades. And I just like to live in a way where I feel like I'm constantly upgrading myself, whether it be upgrading my certifications or upgrading my connections with my community or upgrading my health or upgrading my ability to write more or do more, or even upgrading my bedroom style or my house or my yard or anything that I'm trying. I like to constantly upgrade it and level up. So I encourage everyone that's listening to just take the leap and dare to fail gloriously or dare to succeed gloriously, because you don't want to live a life where you look back and you wish that you would have done something. So if I could leave your audience with anything, it would be go for the gold, go big, dream big, and constantly upgrade your life.
That is great advice. And so you're going for the Guinness Book of World Records. So I say you're leveling up there for sure.
Yes. And what I can tell you about that record is I'm not trying to make the biggest sandwich, and I'm not trying to make the biggest bowl of strawberry ice cream.
All right, so we know it's not that. So we'll have to keep guessing.
So do you have any ideas? What do you think it is?
I would say it has something to do with podcast, but I don't think it's like the most guests on, and I don't think it's the longest show. So I'm kind of lost in what it might be, but I'm thinking it's related to your podcast in some way.
Interesting. Well, we'll all just have to wait to find out.
Awesome. Well, Ace, I appreciate you coming on today, and I want everybody to check out her book. It is on Amazon. I got mine. It came within a day. It's super fast. So the Life and Times of Milton Roberts, and then there'll be a 1 and a 2 to go along with that. And catch her podcast. You're on Wednesdays? You're on Wednesdays at 8. Is that what time you're on Reese Across America?
I'm on Wednesday nights and Friday mornings.
Wednesday nights and Friday mornings. And where else can they catch you? Do you do recordings, right? So your show plays on Reese, like you said, on Wednesdays, and then again on Friday mornings. And then does it broadcast anywhere else besides that on different days of the week?
Spotify is pretty much my LZ, my landing zone there. You guys can find me over there all the time. You can find all of my episodes, all 8 seasons, and be sure to tune in this Sunday for the season 8 finale with Ted Traver. He's a SEAL Team 6 operator, and he just has a wild, adventurous story. So be sure to catch the season finale this Sunday.
Oh, we'll have to do that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You've been a pleasure, and thank you for standing through the audio issues at the beginning, but we really appreciate you being on tonight.
Terry, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you so much to Military Broadcast Radio. I'm so thankful for you guys and for great Americans like all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This is Tracer Round signing off.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness, one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.